The frontier was never quiet, even when the wind stilled, and the sun bled its last golden light over the jagged rocks. There was always a tension in the air, an edge, sharp as the knives men carried on their belts. Elara, daughter of Chief Akacheta of the Ironhawk tribe, had always felt the land breathing with her. The forests whispered, the rivers sang, and the mountains stood guard. But tonight, the land seemed to hold its breath, as if it too feared what was about to unfold. She had been taken at dusk, ambushed on the trail, by Kane's men, ruthless outlaws hiding behind the badge of law. Their leader, Marshal Kane, was once known for keeping order, but greed had twisted him. Where once he carried justice, now he carried hunger for land, for control, for power. And he thought Elara was the key. The barn doors groaned as they swung shut, locking her inside with him. Dust floated in the lantern light, swirling like ghosts above the dirt floor. She fell to her knees, wrists bound by coarse rope that cut into her skin. Kane crouched beside her, his shadow stretching across the floor. He placed a heavy hand on her shoulder, forcing her to bow slightly under the weight of his grip. "Please don't touch me," Elara whispered. Her voice trembled but did not break. She wasn't pleading for herself. She was pleading for the last shred of humanity she hoped lived somewhere inside him. But Kane only laughed, low and bitter. "Your people think they can defy me. They think they own this land. No, girl, you are mine now. And through you, I'll own every last one of them." His words cut sharper than the ropes binding her. He wanted submission, silence, obedience. But Elara lifted her chin, her dark eyes burning in the dim light. "You may bind my hands," she said, "but my spirit will never bow to you." The barn fell silent but for the creaking timbers. Somewhere outside, a coyote howled. Kane's smirk faltered for a breath. He had expected fear, tears, begging, surrender. But what he found was defiance. He struck her across the face, a blow meant to shatter her resolve. She fell sideways onto the dirt, tasting blood on her lip. Still, she did not cry out. Instead, she closed her eyes and whispered inwardly the words her father had taught her. "Courage is the blade that cuts the chains of fear." Kane turned away in frustration, pacing. "At dawn," he muttered, "your tribe will kneel. They'll trade their freedom for your life. And if they don't..." He let the threat hang in the air, unfinished yet heavy as a storm cloud. Elara pressed her forehead to the wooden floor. Every heartbeat was a drum, every breath a vow. She would not break. She would endure this night, no matter the cost. For she knew her people were watching the stars, waiting for the sign. And the sign was her. Far beyond the barn, among the darkened pines, Ironhawk scouts crouched in silence. They had seen her taken. They had tracked the outlaw's trail. And even as Kane spoke his threats, 300 warriors gathered on the ridges, their war paint drying, their weapons gleaming, their resolve unshakable. The dawn would not belong to Kane. When the first light of day touched the valley, the settlement stirred awake. Chickens clucked in their coops. Wagons rattled down the dirt street, and townsfolk went about their business, unaware that on the ridges above, a storm of vengeance brewed. Then came the sound, low at first like the rumble of distant thunder, drums, war drums, beating in rhythm with 300 hearts. The townsfolk froze, heads turned, and then they saw them, Ironhawk warriors cresting the ridge, the rising sun painting their silhouettes in fire. Spears gleamed, feathers whipped in the wind, their painted faces burned with fury. Marshal Kane staggered out of the barn, dragging Elara by the arm. He shoved her forward, holding his revolver to her head. "Stay back!" he roared across the valley. "One more step and she dies." The Ironhawk warriors halted. The air itself seemed to pause. Then Elara, her voice hoarse but unbroken, shouted across the silence, "Do not fear for me. Do not kneel. He has no honor." Her words split the dawn like an arrow. The warriors answered with a roar, their voices rising like a wave of thunder. The drums grew louder, shaking the ground. Kane's hand trembled on the revolver. He barked orders to his men, but fear cracked through his voice. "Hold the line! Don't let them..." The first volley of arrows rained down, swift as hawks from the sky. Several of Kane's men fell where they stood. Gunfire cracked in response, smoke filling the streets. And then, like a flood, the Ironhawk warriors charged. The earth trembled beneath their stampede. Spears clashed with rifles, war cries clashed with screams, and the once quiet town became a battlefield of dust, fire, and blood. In the chaos, Elara twisted free from Cain's grip. She stumbled, but her will drove her forward. Snatching a broken timber from the ground, she turned to face him. "You thought me weak," she said, voice steady despite the din of battle. "But you do not know the strength of the Iron Hawk." She swung the timber with all her strength, striking Cain's arm. His revolver clattered to the dirt. Rage flashed in his eyes, but before he could lunge, 3 Ironhawk warriors descended upon him. They dragged him down, his shouts drowned by the roar of battle. The fight raged until the sun was high. By midday, Cain's men lay defeated, the town broken, the smoke of burning wagons rising into the sky. Elara stood tall, her braids loose, her dress torn, but her spirit unyielding. Her father approached, laying a hand on her shoulder. "You carried our strength," he said softly. "And because of you, we have reclaimed our honor." Elara raised her voice so all could hear. "This is not just victory. This is a warning. We are not to be broken. We are not to be taken. We are not to be silenced." The warriors roared their agreement, spears lifted high. Her words would live in them for generations, as would the day 300 rose for one, and as the sun set on the blood-stained town, the land itself seemed to exhale, no longer holding its breath, but whispering once again with the voices of the free.